pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Craig, second by Amanda. All in favor? 7. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Discussion there. Not, we'll seek a motion to approve that as well.
I'd like to.
I need to abstain from a check number.
Okay.
Check number 51618.
Okay. I think
Did you get that?
Amy was
Amy?
able to do that. Yeah, we got it. Thank you, Kelly.
Amy, I need to abstain from 51576 and 51614.
Is there anything else we need to pull out of there? Or are we ready for a motion to approve this?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Craig, Derek, all in favor? Is 7-0. All right, that'll move us into reports. We'll start with Dr. Dill.
Yeah, I'm going to get to share some really great news tonight for our annual performance report that came. It was embargoed until late last week, and so I'm going to kind of hang on to that until we get to that report. Things are going well. Our sports teams are doing well. As Mr. Carvajal pointed out, our FFA, DECA, the whole schmeal, all of our kids are very successful right now, and I just don't know where the first quarter went. So that flew by real fast. So I'll save the bulk of my time for when we go into the APR. Okay, any questions for me?
For me, we may move over to Ms. Pettigrew.
Yeah.
I just have a few things, just open house numbers. I had mentioned I would share the attendance, and we had 213 students have someone represented out of the 227 at open house. So that was a good turnout. I had teachers still calling families to make up some of the last ones today. So making contact, staying in contact, that's great. We have had house assemblies. The kids have been busy. First quarter honor roll for grades 3 through 5. We had 96 students making either the A or B honor roll. With our STAR test, we took the second quarter and we went up in grades 2 through 5, about 1.3 grade levels in their reading level. So that was a great turnout as well. Attendance looks about 94%, and we spent this last PD day on the 3rd continuing to work on our ELA and our math curriculum. I also reviewed just kind of like the expectations and flow charts of what's going to go on since I'll be on maternity leave next month. And our teachers are going to finish up curriculum in February, and we're going to have some one-on-one set downs with our PDC consultants to kind of look at where they're at and what their progress is. But they've been keeping up, and dividing it into quarters has been a good way to kind of break it up and chunk it for the teachers. So, yeah.
You didn't get the memo that maternity leave was canceled.
Oh, okay. We'll just come to school.
Next grid.
We haven't had any issues with sickness or anything yet this year.
Cross your fingers, not yet.
Seems to be about that time.
It's been like
right?
little chunks of it, but nope, attendance was at 94% for this last month, so that was good.
All right, any other questions? We'll move to.
Can I go next? Okay. I'm going to start with the current special education count. As of the 30th, we had 109 students with IEPs. There are 15 students with 504 plans. We have just one new request, but that's kind of ever changing. I did want to share the IEP ratio and 504 ratio compared to like our district enrollment. And again, this is as of the 30th. So that way you have a clear view that we're still hovering around a 20% ratio for IEPs and then a 504 ratio at 3%. I show you that because state target is 13 to 15%. So not that we have to do anything with that, it's just to give you awareness, and that when we go through eligibility and evaluations, we want to make sure they're quality determinations. Then I wanted to give you some more information about what we've been working on with those evaluations. So like a breakdown of the different types of meeting we've held, how many we have held, and then just how we're busy a lot with meetings. They seem to be ever going. And we did get our file review notice in. So our self-assessment is what it's called through DESE. We're in a cohort 3 tiered monitoring cycle. And we will have to submit, it's actually 15 files at minimum, and they do give you specific allocations or targets that you have to submit on. So our 4 areas are other health impairment, language impairment, transition, and MAP-A. So students who have anything within those categories, initials or reevals, we have to submit those files for desk review. So this is kind of like your audit purpose for special education. What are we not doing correctly? What are compliance indicators called out that we have to then do corrective action for next year? So Ms. Whitworth and I will be working through that. We'll give out the specific names that we're going to turn in by February, and then the actual documents will have to be submitted by April. So we're working on tidying up, reviewing, getting those things cleaned up so that when we send them off, like we get to hand pick what those are. We're hoping they're the best of the best to send and show them. For federal programs update, the federal programs conference is actually next week, and so I'll be going to that Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I did do a McKinney-Vento training, kind of opened up some options for some kiddos. We don't have very many in the district, but it did bring up some discussions on some residency issues we had to double check and triple check some situations. Our entire administrative team did a 3-hour Title IX compliance training, so everybody's up to date on their roles and responsibilities with that as well. And then for special education, like professional development and behavioral support, thank you again for approving the BCBAs that we've got. They've been coming in and actively supporting the teachers and the staff. We met on some recently on just like, here's some plans, here's some supports and suggestions, and then working through that as a collective process and how to integrate that in the district. Project Access just did on November 3rd a behavior series. Last month they did communication. The next part is to follow through with different supports and strategies to help within the classrooms as well. Some of the recommendations from those BCBAs is to enhance like our de-escalation rooms. So we're trying not to just purchase items. We want to make sure those rooms are being utilized correctly. Good spaces, good ability to use them, but it's more about how they're being used versus what's put inside them. Making sure that if teachers want like sensory corners or sensory items, that we are understanding the different types of sensory needs and that we're not just getting something new and gimmicky or a fad item. It's being used in the appropriate manner. So somebody with expertise in that area is also supporting and guiding us on it comes to behavior supports and sensory needs. This month we are doing the local compliance plan. So we are going to adopt the local compliance plan consistent with the state policy based on their new changes. That will be in closed session for you all to review and go over. And then I'm going to touch briefly, there's more information in the report, but just briefly on the preschool summary from the community stakeholder that Ms. Pettigrew and I put together and sent out. So over 100 respondents replied back. Actually had some trying to like access it recently after we closed it on the 5th, with majority over 90% expressed interest in a school-based preschool program. So their top priorities were early learning, academic preparation, and then that was the most cited reason. And then the next was just high quality curriculum with affordability. The other top priority was like special education, the tuition sensitivity, and then just an overall community impact, staff retention, kindergarten readiness, those type of things. We did share a couple of quotes in there in the board report from community voices so that you had an idea of what was being, you have access to the results as a board, but there was so many, we wanted to pick out ones that stood out to us the most. So in conclusion, knowing that it's an overwhelming support for it, we were kind of discussing and throwing out on the option of doing, I think Mr. Wolf had mentioned, how many are we even talking about? Even though the community thinks it's needed and it's a great thing to do. What is the number that we're looking at? And without actually like having people fill out an application to get that number, we just don't know. Or what kind of funding sources we would have to look at to support something like this. So ideally, I would like, with support of Ms. Pettigrew, to do an early childhood screening, kind of like our kindergarten roundup, but for the focus of 3 and 4-year-olds. Not only would this give us an idea of number sense, but it would also fill my obligations under Child Find for special education for that age range. So ideally, doing an early childhood screening under our Child Find obligations would then reveal a different number and category of what we have coming in that we could potentially work towards and implementing in the district if we're interested. So I'm looking at February 9th. It's a school PD day, having the special education department run that screening, because it would be Child Find obligation type tactics. And we would use our dial and support from PAT to kind of do that screening measure. And then that doesn't overlap and get in the way of the kindergarten one in the spring. Then we could come back to you guys in the February board report and let you know how many we had come through, what type of, if they were free and reduced, or what kind of options we had to look at for that kind of situation if we wanted to move forward.
And that's the same thing we've done in the past. At our kindergarten screening, we've made it a early childhood in kindergarten, put them all together. We're just separating them out and doing one earlier, and then we'll do our kindergarten in the spring still. So it's the same thing, just doing twice.
Yeah.
What is our, I guess my thought would be, what do we think we can have for a classroom size to the building?
So the building, again, we'd have to go in and like navigate per classroom size. You can have up to 20 full-time students per teacher and para. So essentially, there's one big open area in a class. There was 3 rooms essentially.
2 rooms, like back in the second one that was the like the old weight room back there. Yeah, yeah. And so we were thinking like this is very rough, just things that we've put together and talked about. Like 30 would be a good number for like a special education type room, with maybe some peer models, and then also a second room. Around 20 with like free and reduced, and then also some teachers' kids like as peer models as well. So that's just brainstorming at what we're looking at. But until we know the numbers of kids that we pull from like our Child Find, and putting together the different types of funding sources on how you make it work.
And it's almost like that childhood screening, if you do it early enough, will drive what next year's enrollment and what like the type of funding source and the type.
So we'd have like a couple-year plan looking at 3 and 4-year-olds, because we were probably just looking at 4-year-olds, except for this early childhood special education. That may be a little different.
I did see in one of the comments, I won't get into nobody's name. Somebody made a comment, that there was a grant. You probably know which one I was talking about. Is that some kind of possibility that we could, go with our, high school students to, maybe pull that grant money also, and maybe give them a chance, like if, I'm gonna use my daughter for example, Caitlin was going in to be a
Like cadet teaching type thing,
Yeah.
like letting them. So the cadet teaching, the problem why it couldn't go down there before, and Bridget, make sure I'm right. Like we couldn't send students down there before because we only allowed them to be in our school district. If it was our preschool, those cadet teachers could work hours in our preschool because that would be ours then. Like we've had other places ask, like daycares and such, can we send cadet teachers over? And we can't because they aren't, it's not our school. We like to keep it within. So
But this
yeah.
would open up that avenue.
Yeah.
So like there's different grants. So depending on what the comment was in the different kind, like the Mo PQK
PK, yeah, it's a little,
PKQ
couple
or
letters
something
together.
is a funding source. So
Mhm.
like the type of kids, that's where you get reimbursement for their enrollment.
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4 different umbrellas that all these kids would fit under, and you can use a piece of each of them. It's just placing the kids into the correct umbrella and how to get the most
A
funding
few
for them.
years ago, there was like a startup grant where you can like start a new preschool and things like that. That's since gone away. But you never know. That's why doing it in February, once we know kind of like what numbers we have, once those spring applications open up, then we'll know which ones we need to work on and apply for.
Thank you, ladies. Just a general question about grants in general.
Yeah.
Is there a place where that's sourced for everybody? I can just see that being something that,
You
how
know,
do you not
I
know?
think everything's
how do
under
you
a
know what's
little-
out there? Is there some sort of?
Bessie.
Yeah.
Bessie does,
But
okay.
they don't have like a grants linked
No.
where here's all the available grants that DESE offers. They don't do that. They have it
So
under like
nice.
Whichever
sub-
program you're looking for,
Yeah.
If
where
you're
you'll
doing early
put the money.
childhood, there's a section. If you're doing like transition, there's a section for it. It would be nice if they listed every possible grant that's accessible through DESE in one spot, but they don't. But I can put that recommendation in when they ask for feedback.
Okay, do that. That'd be great. Good. Any questions for that? Move over to Carl Hall. Talk about
Yeah, I
athletics.
sent you guys a board update and then an update this last week on some of the things that are going on. Bears repeating, we talked about the boys won the conference in football, the girls won the conference in volleyball, so obviously it's been successful so far. One change, I guess I was looking at the bracket, but we don't play Harrisburg, we play Russellville. Harrisburg's on the other side. We just noticing the two conference schools both made it to the district championship game, which is great, but we play Russellville Friday. $6 again. If we win, we go to Tipton. All roads go through Tipton. Whoever wins that is in the driver's seat. And the next game, if we do beat Tipton, would be at home, which that would be good. All winter sports have started. Boys wrestling started today.
Coach, do you mean Thayer?
What did I say?
Tipton.
Tipton's good too.
Yeah, good team.
We
Thayer.
would go to Thayer.
Okay.
So
Way down.
buckle up for a trip.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad that that's how it fell this year because that's opposite advantage. It's a long haul. But being how the bracket set up, we would then be on the top of the next game. So whoever wins that is in really good shape, and they are very, very good. As are we. Wrestling started today. They only had 4 boys out because the rest were playing football. The girls had 3 come out. Gave you junior high numbers. Junior high girls had 11. Junior high boys had 15, maybe 16, and then the varsity boys, their basketball, has 5 or 6 kids out right now. Varsity girls had 16 come out. No on mission now, everything should be finalized. Both boys and girls schedules are full, very good schedules. Junior high, we pretty much got it full as well. Getting ready for a basketball or wrestling every night of the week until March. It's going to be busy, but very successful year so far.
Very good. Questions for Mr. Carl? I knew Jason was going to be a few minutes late. We have hit the principal report. Bridget, is there anything? I don't want to throw you under the bus.
I know, I'm like, I have it here on
Okay.
Cindy's computer, so I guess if there's anything, if you want me to, kind of highlight it, I can for you. I didn't write this, he did, but, he talked a little bit about our building and how everything continues to look great. Mint and Shannon are doing a wonderful job, so, lots of compliments, everything, looks good there. We did just have our 3-week grade check on November 7th, and I know that we printed out those reports, and Jason had some conversations today with some of those students and teachers about a plan to get them on track, and he gave you those numbers in his report. And then we had our open house the other night, and we saw over 50% of parents attend and handed out their grade cards. So it was a pretty good night. I felt like numbers were down maybe a little bit, and I'm not sure what the reason was, but still we saw over 50%. So, and then he talks a little bit about the athletic updates. Mr. Carvajal already gave you those about volleyball winning their conference for the first time since 1997. So that was a pretty big deal for us. And then the boys won the Central State A Conference champs again. So November 3rd, we had a professional development day. Everyone had completed their ALICE trainings on that day if they hadn't done so before we added those in. And then communications, Jason continues to send out a weekly newsletter to the parents, and I think they really appreciate those. He gives all the updates and gets everything from teachers and staff, and just kind of a good way to keep them updated. So I think that that's been pretty well received from our parents this year. So, and then we had DECA week, November 3rd through 7th. That one, they did a lot of fun things, and I'm on events.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to highlight for first quarter open house. One thing I sent out last week in the newsletter was asking for any feedback as far as like participation with the open house for middle school and high school. It always seems like something we've struggled with as far as getting participation there. With elementary school, you have one person you're really meeting with, and then your specials. With middle school and high school, a good thing about Teacher Ease is everybody's informed all the time. The downside of that is they don't really have a reason to come to school, to talk to teachers because they see their kids' grades every day. So getting those parents to actually come and meet those teachers, and then also just to have that face-to-face interaction with those teachers that they talk to on a weekly basis, not just so they get the first phone call and they've never met that teacher. So something I'm working on there. Just looking for ways to improve that. Attendance continues to be high right now. We've done a really good job calling people, making sure people are informed. Attendance right now is sitting around 95, 96% for the middle school and high school. So far, when I went to the report the other day, it was last Friday, we did our report after our admin meeting, and I looked on there and we didn't have anybody below 80%, which is still getting a quarter of a point. So, attendance-wise this year, we're really good. Majority, almost every kid is over 90%, which is the full point for our attendance points on our APR. So really happy with attendance so far. And then eventually kind of hit on that with Dexter last week. And then we had our partnership with Jolene Garber for Red Ribbon Week to bring in the Arrive Alive campaign, just to bring awareness to drinking and driving and drug driving as well. So it's been a busy last month at school. Fall stuff's kind of winding down, so now we're starting to head towards winter, and football's still going strong. So excited to see them play on Friday night for a district title. And, as football starts to wind down, winter picks up right where it leaves off. So we'll be ready to go for winter.
Yeah, Olivia came home and was talking about the drunk driving thing and the trying to hit the brakes and it not braking for her and all this sort of thing. So
Yeah,
it's a thing. She talks a lot about driving now that she's got a permit. So she did come home the other night because she was honked at, which she was driving too slow. Which is better than too fast. All right, very good. Any questions for Culpepper?
The Arrive Alive guide, I was going through that day and stuff, checked in at the office and came back out. He really seemed like he was talking to the kids. I kind of sat back and hid by Jolene for a little bit and just kind of watched how he interacted. And he did a great job with those kids explaining. So I just want to brag on him. He did a good job.
he did. A lot of times, they're not really real personable, but I thought he did a great job of really interacting with kids and, kind of broke that barrier down and got kids to interact and kind of talk.
So they were all kind of chatting there in a group, and of course against the girls, but they were in there chatting who did worse and their checklists and what they all did. But it just seemed like he was real personable and really let them know, think before you do it. Just as simple as them looking down at their phone. He told them what could be the catastrophic damage. So I'm gonna brag on him. He did a good job.
Good event. Does anyone have any more questions? I do want to apologize. I should have done this at the very beginning, but I do want to introduce Dr. Harriet Will. We should have done this at the top of the meeting, but welcome to the district. We're looking forward to working with you. She's going to come in and work the last half of the year.
Julie's gonna have all the problems solved for me.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so that'll move us into, I think, old business, and Mr. Downs from MSBA is going to give us an update on our superintendent search.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. Before we get started, does everybody have a copy of the report from the stakeholder survey? We'll go through those in just a moment. So first I wanted to update you on the candidate pool. We have 9 applications submitted so far and another currently in progress. And so when that's submitted, we'll be at 10. They've been coming in at a rate of about 1 to 2 per week. And then we would expect another clump of them coming in over Thanksgiving break. And so hopefully we'll hit a number 15 or 16 at least for our candidate pool by the time we get to closing on November 30th. Current makeup of the pool includes current superintendents, former superintendents, current directors, and current principals. So that's a good combination of folks that are in the pool so far that you'll have to consider when it comes to that time. And I just want to remind the board that at the beginning of the process, you had selected that this would be a closed search. So we're not going to provide specific details on applicants for public release prior to the announcement of the new superintendent, whenever that takes place. And we'll talk here in a few minutes about the timeline that we want to establish for the remainder of the process. But first, I thought we should take a look at this stakeholder survey results. So if you have those in front of you, I just want to call out some highlights for you. And then if you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer those. The survey was open from October 22nd through November 3rd. We received a total of 78 responses, and those included parents and guardians, employees, and residents of the community. There's a chart in the survey report that lines those out for you. Respondents could pick more than one of those categories that describe themselves. Just another reminder that the survey should serve really as one data point in this process and not the overarching data point as we come to the selection of the superintendent. So just keep that in mind. The board will make the selection based on many factors, not just these survey responses. So you'll notice on the second page that the top themes that were provided by respondents of perceived district strengths, and those are listed in order of the number of mentions that they received. Those were open-ended questions, and so respondents could write whatever they wished. And those top themes included the level of community support as a point of pride, the quality of teachers and staff, the quality of the student body, the quality of extracurricular activities, and then academic programs within the district were the top themes that were called out as strengths. The next question was about perceived district challenges, and those, you'll notice there's some overlap, and so it just depends on the perspective of each respondent. The themes perceived as district challenges included academic and curricular rigor, district leadership, expanding curricular options and access for students, then staff recruitment and retention, of course, which is true for all districts these days, and improved communication. The next portion of the survey asked respondents to select the top 3 professional skills that they would like to see in their new superintendent. There were many different skills listed, so just to focus on the top before the first natural break, you had 36 respondents that selected recruit, hire, support, and retain effective staff members. So that was number 1. Number 2 was fostering a positive culture and climate for teachers and staff, with 28 respondents selecting that. And then effectively managing district resources was number 3, with 23 responses. Then below, or the next question was the most important personal traits for the new superintendent. By far, the most selected was that the superintendent should be approachable, accessible, and welcoming, with 47 respondents selecting that trait. Following through on tasks and responsibilities, number 2, with 36 responses. Demonstrating ethics and integrity, with 34 responses. Possessing strong communication skills, with 30 responses, and demonstrating collaborative leadership, with 26 responses before the break, when there were significantly less for the remainder. And then the final question of the survey was another open-ended question where we asked for other qualities and priorities that the board should be considering as they select the new superintendent. And there were many different responses, but they shook out again into themes. The top 4 themes were the new superintendent should be actively engaged and very communicative with parents, staff, and the community. So you'll see that is reflecting what has already been provided in the previous responses. So a high priority for the community. Valuing and collaborating with teachers and staff, which again was referenced earlier. So another high priority for the community. Prioritizes student learning, student well-being, and high academic standards. And then modeling honesty, ethical decision-making, transparency, and values. So those are the themes that we noted in the responses from the respondents. those themes can help you in the selection of interview questions. And so when it comes time for the board to decide on the questions that will be used in both the screening interviews with the larger group and then the formal interviews with the smaller group, I would suggest that we at least think about including questions based on these themes that reflect the will of the community when it comes to the selection of the new superintendent, which probably overlap with your thoughts as well already. So, sure. You have questions about the report?
The results seem to be pretty expected. I mean, I guess this is probably, is this consistent with what you see from other rural school districts?
Mm-hmm.
Same type of theme?
Yes. It is always situationally dependent and oftentimes related to, what the community is experiencing at that time. And so the themes can shift a little bit, but oftentimes districts are very much interested these days, especially all districts are interested in the recruitment and retention of teachers and other staff members. That's a nationwide problem, and so it's a priority for pretty much every district in America. And then other things like communication, I mean, that's one of the most important things that superintendents do, and so that becomes a high priority for a lot of districts as well. Nothing unusual about the responses. More responses might have been helpful. No students filled out the survey, which was a little disappointing, but
Would you have, what was your like gut feeling on number of responses we would have got? Because we just had a survey for our preschool and we got 50% more respondents than we did in this for our preschool survey, which is kind of, if people want to have an opinion, we asked for their opinion, and their thoughts. So it's a little disappointing that we didn't have more, but is this kind of in the ballpark of what you thought?
Yeah, well, in this day and age, people are generally over-surveyed a lot. And so they typically respond to those surveys that are the most important to them. And obviously, survey responses about their own children would be a great priority to them. And many people really don't know or understand the superintendent role. And so there would be a little bit more hesitancy, or it might not be that high of a priority. But we just did Columbia's superintendent search last year, and so think of the size of the city of Columbia. We had 1,200 responses for the entire community, and that's a city of over 120,000 people, and so your response rate isn't atypical for a rural district. Just that usually the more responses, the better. Other questions about the survey results? Okay, do we want to talk about the timeline for the remainder of the process? Originally, when I was here last time, we had laid out the tentative timeline, and at that time we had discussed that the timeline was tentative, and since then I have talked to President Helms, and we've talked about perhaps shifting the timeline a little bit, which would be fine. Originally, the next real phase that we all need to meet together as a group is to review the candidates once the window for applications closes. And that window closes on November 30th. Then we will need a few days to be able to gather up the materials of those people who apply over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, and then create summaries for those people. So that will take a few days. So my recommendation would be the earliest that we could meet as a group to review the candidates would be Thursday, December 4th. Originally, we had scheduled it for the following week, the week of December 8th, but we could go a little bit earlier.
What do you all think about that? Yeah, I would be in favor of moving it to the 4th. The rest of the board is there. Evening, that's a Thursday evening. Work session. have anything that afternoon, so we could do it 6 like we normally would.
6 o'clock, guys.
And this would be just a review of all the applicants at that time.
Mhm. To be clear, in that session, what we would do is we would be reviewing all of the candidates that had submitted materials. We will have tiered them for you, most highly qualified, qualified, and those who might be unqualified. And then what you will do as a board is select which candidates will be interviewed during the screening round, which would be our first rounds of interviews. And we will be shooting for like 6-ish to 7 candidates for that first screening round. Those interviews will be shorter.
Do you think you'll have that information to us before the 4th for us to look at before we get into that?
The
work session?
application materials, you will have all of that before the 4th. The turnaround will be as quick as possible on sending the application materials themselves to you. Some of the summaries might not yet have been totally completed. The ones that are done, we will send to you. So they're already finished for people who have applied already, and they're created as we go. But we're just expecting again, a group of applications over Thanksgiving break when people have time to take a breath and fill out the application. So we'll just need a few days to finalize those, but we will get them to you as quickly as they're done. Yeah, so that you don't have to go through everything after the meeting.
Obviously, we want to be reasonable. It would just be nice to see it before we get into the meeting. That way we kind of talk through it until that'd be great.
Right, and then at that meeting, we will make final confirmation on what questions will be used in the screening interviews, and then also we'll go over the scoring process for scoring those interviews.
Okay.
So December 4th, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
here, right? Okay, great. Then after that, our screening interviews. Originally, we had those scheduled for the week of December 15th. If we'd like to back that up, we could do that the week prior, which would be the week after December 4th. We will need time to schedule those interviews, so it would not probably be likely that we could get it done until later, the second half of the week, maybe the 10th or the 11th.
Yeah, we have a meeting on the 10th.
It will take 4 hours.
For the screenings.
Mhm.
So we'll have 6, let's say 6 screenings. We go
30 minutes each,
Yeah.
plus like a 10 minutes in between.
maybe if that's possible. I'm trying to see where I'm at on the. I assume it'd be difficult to get all 7 of us during the day during a work week. That's pretty fair to say. 4 hours is enough in the evening.
Mhm.
It's a pretty late interview.
Yeah, you can't start at 6
Right.
for 4 hours. You could maybe start at 4, but then the important thing to remember is after the interviews, we need to then meet and discuss to narrow down the pool to the finalists. So there has to be a closed session meeting after that, and how long it is depends on how much deliberation there is over who the finalists would be.
I could move, if we were to go earlier on that Thursday, I don't know what everyone's available, I can move some stuff around to go as early as 3. If we were to go on the 11th, for example. Or we probably have to move it to Friday, I could do it too. So I'm flexible at this point, before someone takes my time on my calendar, it's open, I could block it. So I guess I'll put it in the boards and when you guys are there. I think we could look at the 11th, 12th, or 13th. I'm not sure. Would a Saturday be out? I mean, that would be an option, correct?
Certainly would be an option.
Not ideal.
Well, if your applicants want the job, they'll make time for you.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that we'd want to hire people that would want the job. But I understand that. He's asking about just the distance for traveling folks in, people in.
So for the screening interviews, I'd recommend that we just do them all by Zoom so that we don't have to deal with traveling, just for screening for the 30-minute interviews.
Does that change anything for you guys as far as availability?
I was just curious if.
You guys tell me, if we're doing Zoom, that changes some things. I can do things throughout the day on the 11th and 12th. So we could split that if we wanted to split it.
Let's do it the 11th at 3 o'clock.
11th, 3. You good?
Should be, yeah.
All right. So we'll do the 11th at 3 o'clock.
Here also?
Yes.
Yeah.
They'll be Zooming in here.
Okay.
Yeah. No, sorry, I wasn't clear. They would be on Zoom. We would be in a room together.
Okay, that threw me
So-
off a minute.
Yeah,
So,
I apologize.
That's all right.
Yeah.
To live on Zoom.
Yeah, I know. It will be confusing if we have all of us individually on Zoom.
Okay, that will work.
Okay, and then for formal
You said
interview,
the 11th, correct?
that's what I have, 12/11 at 3 p.m. And then the formal interviews, we had originally scheduled for the week of January 5th. If we want to move them back, that would be the next week would be our final opportunity before it's time for winter break. And so sometime around the 17th would probably be the right time. We might have to schedule those over more than one day to allow for travel if people can't come on a specific day, since we would want to do those on site.
I would be open to doing it that week. I mean, the 17th.
I'd say I'm available except for the 16th.
So we would have maybe 3 candidates.
In total, we would be talking about close to 4 hours, because we'll probably have an hour per interview, then with like a 15-minute break in between each one. So maybe 3 3/4 hours in total. If we have difficulty scheduling people, that might be 2 on one day and 1 on the next day, depending on if someone can or can't travel or have things going on. It's a little bit more of a commitment to come and do an hour-long interview than to hop on Zoom for 30 minutes.
Sure. Right. I mean, we could do the same thing and look at 3 o'clock on 4 o'clock, 17th. Try to fit 3 in. Do that. If possible, with travel.
Would we be making our decision
At
after
night.
that?
Mhm.
Can I ask if we can do it the day afterwards, make our decision?
You can.
I think it's prudent that everyone thinks on it. It's through it.
Mhm.
Decision, right?
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah, for sure.
I wanna get it right, and I just,
If-
you know, if we're in here listening to people for 3.5 hours, we might be a little tired. We can think on next day, come back and make a decision. But that's just my thought.
You want to go at 4? That, I know everyone works, obviously. we won't do that.
Yeah, I don't care. Like David said, I can do it any time of the week but the 16th.
The later we can push back, the better. I mean, or make it work would be better for me. I should be supposed to have work.
What time would work? Like what's
I'll
what
make whatever
ideally?
work.
Yeah, okay.
But, you know, I just, earlier make my day.
You guys. Greg? Okay. Why don't we shoot for 4? Okay, I'll make it, why don't we shoot for 4 on the 17th start?
Got it. Okay. All right, well, that's what I have for you. Do you have other questions?
Yeah. we'll have to set board meetings.
December 4th, December 11th, December 17th, December 18th. Get a closed session and make our final. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, we would just need to figure out on the 18th what you guys want to do from a time perspective. What's that? But that becomes a little more difficult, but,
We don't have to though, I was just thinking, do it all that same night. Starting at 4, it might be a little easier. Do it all the same night.
yeah, I mean, I get your point. I sleep on it a lot of times too when we're hiring it. How difficult is it to put like a tentative meeting? I mean, because I know we have to have 24-hour notice to have a meeting. So
Well, we can schedule it.
just schedule it and cancel. I mean, we could go in there Wednesday night and it's a slam dunk. And there'd be no reason to come back, that next day. Or we may need to think about it because we've got 3 really good candidates that we have to think through. So could we schedule the meeting on the 18th for
What if we can make our
cancel it if we
decision?
need to? I can get here at 5:30. We'll go 6 o'clock.
It's not like we've got a lot to think about if we're still drumming on it, but 4-hour session. 6.
All right. Everybody's, just to recap. So we've got, the 11th, we'll have the superintendent screenings. And that'll go from 4 or 3 on. And then on the 17th is we'll do interviews and we'll set a tentative meeting on the 18th for us to potentially meet. Candidates on this report. Yeah, I didn't get back far on that. So we have to review the candidates on this.
There's nothing we have to do on November 30th. That's when you all are reviewing.
That's correct.
I have wrote down.
Very good.
Any other questions? Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Okay, that I think gets us into some budget amendments.
Yep. Lisa printed up a handy dandy report for you, just to kind of give you some perspective. Right above the 2 pie charts, the pie chart on the left are the expenses, the pie chart on the right are the revenues. If you look directly above the one on the right, you'll see 2026, that's the budget you approved back in June. When it says 2026 working, that's the amendment that we're proposing tonight. And all the amendments are doing are shoring up like what per pupil expense we're going to get from the state, all of the grants that we've been able to acquire through the fall, shores up all of our federal dollars. So for instance, like we had a $27,000 deficit in our title funds. And so it just takes into account all of those things to get things back on par with the budget, what we know right now. This will help, you can see on where it says change, you can look through all of this and kind of see that the line items it goes through, but we're getting getting in the revenue side is $83,688. It increased 10,993 on the expense side, and so you can see that net. What this will do is get this budget shored up so that Dr. Wolf can come in and do her financial wizardry and get you ready to go into your 26-27 budget year.
Just to note, I prefer after all the tax money was in January, February, before you get another amendment, because that pretty well solidifies our revenue side. Just so that we've got pretty clear figure. Short of that. That's just something I typically like to do. As all the tax.
That's all I ask for your approval for tonight.
Just would seek a motion for the approval of the budget amendment. Greg, second by Amanda, all in favor? 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have some policies to approve today, and I think Dr. Phil's going to walk us through some discussion on a few of those.
Yeah, I just got a couple of things that I kind of wanted to bring around. The main one, let me grab that tabby, is JECA-1, eligibility to enroll. This is the one that came about as far as to comply with Senate Bill 68. That was that new law that was passed this last spring. This is the one that you have the option to pick and choose. So if you look on the very front where it says update explanation on the MSBA policy, there's 3 options, or actually there's 5 options there. Option 1 is that enrollment option is voluntary. So like in Camdenton, we had no non-resident students in our district. The second one talks about, which we have had for quite a while, is where we're allowing our staff to bring their kids to our district. That's just a nice perk for folks, so they're not having their kids going to school somewhere else and having to worry about it. But when you look under number 3, that's the one that's the newest piece, where districts can elect to allow or not to allow contractors that we have, such as OPA, Mint, and Durham, to allow their kids to come in. That makes them eligible for enrollment. MSBA has included a 60-day work agreement or work requirement, so they have to be in district in order to be able to enroll. And then it allows those kids to stay in district tuition free until the end of the year. So really 3 is the one that 3, 4, and 5 kind of are those ones within contractor piece of it. That's your option. I just need to know the pleasure of the board, what you would like to do on that.
We had some discussion around this, I think, last year. Any thoughts?
Is there an option to contract? Or is it specific contract or services that are working within the district?
So on further back in that same law, it talks about, or that same policy, it talks about they're defined who regularly work 20 paid hours per week, providing services to or get the benefit of the district. So, and they have to be at least 60 calendar days. That's all the guidance that I've got.
And there's no middle ground.
I think you all are able to set that middle ground if you want to.
I mean, I think, so if the person working for us coming in, and they can have their kid there, it makes them feel happier, they're gonna provide better outcomes for what they're doing, is the way I see it. But I also think we could possibly have, let's just use Durham, for example. If there was open table discussion, say, hey, it takes us $6,000 for the kid. Like, you know, we'll split it with you. You know, is there a $3,000 credit back on our bill? or something that we could do to meet in the middle, it'd be a benefit to the Durham employee. Durham's helping us, and we're taking the other half of the load. And the whole goal is to have a better outcome for the students.
Right. And so right now, our tuition rate is $7,500
Okay.
Per year. If they come in partially toward into the year, then we prorate that.
Okay.
That'll be a number that I would recommend to Dr. Wolf to look at. I'm not sure when the last time it was looked at, but that should be updated each year.
We have a formula we
Yeah,
can
there's a
use to
formula.
determine that.
Mhm. We just haven't done that yet.
I mean, if it's gonna make people working for us happier, right? But at the same time, we're not a charity, so we don't wanna.
Yes.
If
We
you
just
charge
wouldn't-
tuition, you
So,
We can't if we charge tuition.
yeah, and so the difference would be, so, is the tax base. We wouldn't get they don't live here, so they wouldn't have the tax money.
unless for some reason they own something here and pay.
$2,500 of taxes a year.
So what would be our financial impact
Well,
if they live, let's say they live in, Versailles, and the Durham lady brings her kid here?
yep. And so our student, don't quote me on the exact dollar on this, but like our per pupil expenses run right around 12.5. I remember right. If we're, so 12.5 is including both formula money and that's putting that tax money together. So, if anything to weigh in.
So we're receiving 12.5 per student,
That's our expenditures.
okay? What do you know formula wise what we're receiving per student? Because it would increase our formula by that amount.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so it's roughly like 64.50, something like that. Don't quote me on that one either, so.
We can look into
Yeah.
that and let you know the answer to that financially.
I guess I'm confused. What would be the difference between someone that lives here, doesn't pay taxes, that just rents or something?
Well, someone's paying taxes on the facility they're living in, or the house, the apartment.
Yeah.
So that tax money still comes to the school district.
We're receiving money from the state on their attendance.
Okay.
For each additional student we receive, we're receiving something from the state for that in our formula.
And this is very new because, just this last May, because years and years ago, districts would poach kids from other districts because then they could get their formula money. And that's why that law was initially put in, to keep folks from saying, hey, come on over to California, we'll do this and this for you. And then we were losing our formula funding. So that's the initial reason why it was put in. This is opening up, a gate. If you want to open the gate, if you want to leave it as is and then revisit it later, we can do that. We can always come back around. Dr. Whip and I can look at the numbers and come back even in December for this specific policy.
And the 12,000 plus
Yeah.
is a regular ed
Mhm.
student, not a student with high needs, or not a student that is more involved, or not a student who may require a 504, etc.
Would it help the board to table this and talk about that from a financial perspective? Maybe as we dig into it a little bit more for the next meeting. We have a few of those scheduled soon.
Hey, Bo, isn't there a bill back though for kids that say they are coming from for sales, that we can actually bill back requests for their tax, whatever their tuition rate is from for sales to Tipton to educate that child or children?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think they have that. I don't think we have that answer yet.
I don't think they would
I thought
qualify
that's
when
what
we
we've done in the
have
past
opened
with
our enrollment.
teachers' kids that come from Clarksburg. I mean, if we have kids, a teacher and their kids live in Clarksburg and then they come to Tipton, don't we bill them for that? And we get that
We
back
bill a
in
tuition rate is what we
Correct.
bill.
at
Mhm.
our tuition rate, but we would be able to bill back.
So
Or
we
cover
bill
both.
back when we have, for instance, a student in foster care and their family lives here in the district, but they're in Pettis County. Then Pettis County, whatever school they're in Pettis County, they can bill back for the tax money that would be collected here in Montauk County in Tipton.
Cause I thought we did it. I thought before that's what we did was request bill back for kids that are coming from, it doesn't matter if it's Pilot Grove,
Right.
Otterville, whatever. Maybe something to look into.
Do you want to table or just the JEs? Let me get the numbers right. Or the letters right, JEC 1 and JEC A1.
Let me make sure. CA1,
Uh-huh.
JE.
JEC 1 and JEC A1. Those are the school admissions and eligibility to enroll. Let me look and see. Actually, no, not JEC,
Yeah, I was-
JEC A1.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
only
right.
one.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring you the numbers back in December.
Does that work for the board? I think that's what I'm hearing.
Perfect.
One more question while we're on it. I'm gonna use Brand's analogy. With that student, say, coming from Super Sales, are we responsible for transportation, or is that something that we have to, or they, since they're already coming to school? I'm gonna use Durham, for example. Are we gonna be responsible for picking that child up, or is it gonna be under the responsibility of the parent to get them here every day?
Right now, if I'm a teacher and I live in California, I'm just using that because that's the next road down, or next town down the road. It's my responsibility to get my kid here. I can't expect a bus to come get them.
I just
If I
wanted to
live
double
outside
check.
the district, we want to stay within those district boundaries.
That's a good point.
Well, it's just something.
You just don't wanna all of a sudden open that up.
Well, I don't wanna open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Right.
If we set precedent, we
Yep.
say we wanna do this, that's fine. But I don't wanna open it up to have to drive to Stover to pick up one kid.
Right.
Or something.
No.
So is that something we need to make sure to put in this as our policy?
Let me get this with Emily and see. I don't think we have to, the way we,
I just wanna make sure we're, patrons understand.
right. I think it spells it out. Let me find it real quick. We don't have to pay for that. I'm not seeing where we do. But
So-
I'll get that confirmed.
Were there any other questions about any of the other policies that were here?
It's the only one I was curious on.
So,
Now, here's the difference. I want to just make one more point and then I'll. The difference is, as Dr. Hanson mentioned earlier, and Bridget, we've had some parents that have wanted to enroll their students in our district. And I've had one family that Ashley and I have been working with, and Bridget, that I always give grace. And I gave them grace twice, knowing that probably it's not really easily, we're not really, I have a lot of plethora of places to rent and purchase here in Tipton. So I gave grace in the summer, I gave grace after Labor Day, got the last address, we went out, we did a home visit. That place is since, like, the whole trailer's gone. So I did send out a letter and with the bill, so that they understood that that's educational larceny, and that's called out in this policy. When you have students that are coming here, they don't live here and reside in the district, that can be figured as educational larceny. It's a $7,500 is what we charge as tuition. And again, that needs to be evaluated to make sure it's as accurate as it can be. So let's not confuse contractors with people who don't live in our district trying to get into our district. It's a great thing. People are dying to get in here, but there's correct ways to do it. So this doesn't overstep anything. It's just for contractors, adding them onto the list, such as like our teachers and our support staff, having that option.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think through the timing of this, because if the requirement it's a pre-requirement of 60 days employment before.
Well, we're past that.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to think next year. Let's say we pass this,
Mhm.
right? And there's a requirement of 60 days before.
But if they've already been working for them,
That's kind of what I'm thinking through. That doesn't make sense for a new employee.
No.
So if I start as a new contractor for Tipton and I've got a kid, then I have to wait 60 days into the school year before they would be eligible to come to the school district.
But this would only be with contracted services.
Yeah,
so
Right,
instead of
yeah,
just
right,
the
right.
teachers.
that's it.
Yeah.
So if they're
And
looking to come to Tipton, they need to be hired back in May.
And that's the thing about it. I think contract work. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to.
And
do have
remember-
people-
So we have a mint,
I mean, it's like
OPA and Durham,
and
that's
Durham.
all we're talking about, those three major ones, unless
at-will
Heartland has
employees,
someone.
pretty much the people that are doing
Yes,
that
haven't been.
is going to be.
You could run into that, yes. You could run into it with Heartland as well. That's why I was getting into it, like, if we had like a contract, let's say, for just general maintenance of our AC systems and things like that, how far, how deep
Yeah.
does it
so-
go? If we have an annual contract with, say, Butzer, or
Right.
if we did an
So
annual,
that wouldn't count, so it's gonna be someone who's gonna,
Yeah.
hit these requirements.
they have to hit that many hours.
Yeah, and remember, guys, legislators put this together for us. So sometimes, it does kind of take a little bit to get the weeds pulled out and figure out what the intent of the law is.
It's almost like you'd want to even put the 60 days on the backside.
Right.
If you really wanted to attract people here, then you could say, okay, as long as you're employed for 60 days.
And we can keep that, MSBA included that in here. That would be an option on when we bring it back. You can take that out if you wanted to.
It would make it
Or you
difficult
could-
for someone that was in middle school or high school if you were
Yeah.
a new employee, because then they wouldn't be eligible to participate in
Right.
extracurricular activities if they came after that 60 days, because then it'd be a transfer instead of like
Yeah.
enrollment at the beginning. If they came 60 days into the school year and came in middle of October, then it'd be a transfer, not a new enrollment.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that creates some difficult situations, just like the one you were just talking about
Right.
a minute ago, where
Right.
we now have somebody that, they become
But we
they
do
they
have-
quit or something. And
Mhm. And we do have people that pay tuition to come here, which is a great thing.
I do like the idea of just turning it into 60 days employment
Right.
rather than.
Now, that's an MSBA recommendation. You can remove that cap. So we'll bring that back when we come back with the JECA.
Is if you're hired and you enroll, you're good to finish out. It said it somewhere in there. They finish out the year.
Yeah, they can finish out the year.
However, it's just, it says you start with Durham in May and get enrolled and then quit in August. They get to finish out the year.
Mhm.
I mean, if we're looking to retain good quality help.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if we want to fine tune that just a little bit, that it, maybe we say finish out the semester. Can we adjust something like that?
We can do anything we want, right? From a
I
time
just worry about,
perspective.
Yeah.
I'm not saying our patrons are gonna cheat us, but if somebody's coming here and they wanna be a patron, we wanna make sure we take care of our kids first. Not that that kid wouldn't fall into our category of our kid.
penalize you.
Well, I don't wanna penalize
That's why
any
we're
kid, but
Right.
Do what's best for kids. You can't fault somebody for bettering their life, right? If you have someone that's working for a contracted service and they get a better paying job, you can't hold that over their head,
But the way this reads, they get to stay.
as they should.
Mhm.
That's why we're in
2 years a year.
business.
Mhm. Agree.
That's a good point.
number 2 on the back.
So why don't we all think about that then, because we're gonna have to revisit this anyway, so. We have a policy, so we can read and talk through and make sure we wanna make to that. Is there
And then
anything
approve
else,
the, that's,
that you wanted to?
that's it. That was the big one.
Okay, all right, so we'll seek a motion for these board policies. Would it be helpful for me to read them?
I can read them all, except for, it was the JECA.
That would be the way to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve MSBA policies EHBD, GCPA, IGBA, JEC, JFCA, GV, JG, JGF, JHDE, JHDF, JHG, and procedures BDDL-AP1, EHBD-AP1, GCPA-AP1, and JFCA-AP1.
By Brent, we have a second. Second by Craig. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, very good. Now that gets us into the special education compliance plan.
That was the adopted version.
Yep.
That Desi's recommended from the update to the local compliance plan. So this is option A out of A, B, and C. It's the most chosen one. It's not amending or changing or coming up with your own policies. We're just following what Desi recommends from that local compliance plan.
There aren't any questions about that. We seek a motion to approve this. So moved. Eric, second by David. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, so we have a presentation on the APR. Dr. Dill.
Here we go. Okay, Kelly, I'm gonna try to.
I didn't turn it on, I'm sorry. I just put the
Can you
mic
see it? Okay. There's Kelly, everybody. Okay. All right, Kelly, I'm gonna, we're gonna phone you in, Kelly.
That's fine. I put my other picture up there.
Okay, oh, wait, no, not you. But, I'm just, I need to be able to see if this.
Yeah, you're fine. I just put my other picture up. I can see my bald head.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, we're good. Can you hear us all right, Kelly?
Gotcha.
Okay. Just a little bit of background. Can you all see okay? Just a little bit of background. And the admin, you and I worked on this last week. This data was embargoed until Friday-ish. I think Desi crashed on Thursday, so it's a little bit in depth. So when we think about our APR, our annual performance report, that's our MSIP 6, that's our accreditation piece. And so 70% of that performance report comes from performance score. And then 30% of the total APR comes from continuous improvement. So things like on the performance score side, we're thinking about achievement status. So we're thinking about overall, all kids in ELA and all kids in math, but then we also think about subgroups. We're doing that for ELA, math, science, and social studies. When we look at achievement growth, this is an area, a lot of, this, I'm gonna bring in my other little side gig. This is the area that a lot of districts in the state of Missouri are struggling with right now, it's academic growth. And that's each student growing year over year. So 24% of our growth points come from all of those same content areas, both all kids and then by student groups. Success Ready brings in our attendance, it brings in our ICAPs, it brings in, each one of those buildings has another piece of that, which is the KEA for elementary, our graduation rate, and then follow up for our graduates. What are our graduates doing 18 months later? This side of the house, y'all don't have a lot going on yet because you're in cohort 2. This district's in cohort 2. Thank you, because this would have been hard to pull off as an interim, right? And so when your new superintendent or superintendent candidates are asking for your cohort 2. This year, so you already have a CSIP ready to roll. It's up and running. That was step 1. This year, cohort 1 folks are having to respond to those standards. And then they're having to, we already have a climate and culture survey, but we'll have to redo that next fall. And then from that, you'll adjust your CSIP. So we didn't get any points off of that. We didn't get any deducted. It's just where we're at in cohort 2. And then MSIP required documentation, again, that success ready piece. So with all that in mind, let's talk our score. So I went back 4 years because that's what the report gave us. I put on one at your desk. Performance is here. That's the big piece that we were talking about. Continuous improvement and then total APR. This district has steadily made growth. Got to celebrate that. Got to celebrate that. Not all of our friends around in the neighborhood were able to say that across the state. When we look at total APR scores by building within the district, you can see elementary, middle, and high, and then of course district is on the bottom. The principals and I had a great discussion last Friday about, okay, so what do we think is going on here? We looked at our math scores and our EOC scores. We talked a lot of things like, what do we think we need to do for our next steps? So we're working together on those next steps as we speak. Jason and I are going to meet next week and kind of go over some things about what can happen at the secondary level. When we look at the APR, I'm a visual girl, so I got to see a picture and I'm good to go. This is all those years in visual, so you can see that steady increase your district has made over the last 4 years. This is elementary. That middle one, a lot of that's what's driving that continuous improvement is going to be attendance. Middle. And then high. You may be thinking, Julie Bill, you forgot something. We didn't get any points these first 2 years at the high school level, but they're doing that. And they've got plans with your support at the beginning of the school year at the attendance plan. We really think that's gonna help a lot. Now I always like to compare folks a little bit. So we looked at conference schools. I think I got all these right. Hopefully my friends are shaking their head yes. Look where we're at. The only one above us in our conference is Eugene. They're just by what, 1 point something, very little. So we're leading the pack in the conference school. So thought that was pretty exciting. And then to round out the very end is I looked at area schools. Like I'm thinking about like similar size. I did bring in Clarksburg and Latham. What you need to know about them is they're a K-8, so they don't have all the opportunities for scores for the points that we do here. But they still pulled their APR score out, and I just went ahead and put it up there. So you can see we're 4th from the top in with Pilot Grove, California, and so I think we need to celebrate the hard work that our staff has been doing and that our students have been collectively, I think we're taking assessments pretty, what do I want to say? I think we're taking them with great attitude. The kids aren't like blowing off tests. One of the areas we talked about at the secondary level is sometimes we have things like just for instance, the American government. So when you look at social studies, that's one test. That's only at the 11th grade level. And so American government is our social studies test. So when you look at the supporting documents, that's what that is. If we have a lot of students that are taking dual credit off-site, sometimes the colleges don't have to follow the same standards that we're teaching back here that we're held to with the Missouri Learning Standards. And so one of the things that we're talking about, and we're digging into the data even deeper, is how are our kids doing? When our kids take dual credit, American government, this is just a for instance, then they get 1/2 of a year. For our kids that are taking it here in Tipton, they get a whole year. We know the ones taking it here in Tipton, and we know they're getting all the Missouri Learning Standards because that's what we do, right? Our curriculum is aligned with the state standard. We also know how those EOCs look, where sometimes maybe our folks at the co-meeting. So those are just some of the things we're talking about. We're talking about how can we, what's one more thing we can do to increase our attendance scores. So the thing about attendance, I love that they report out attendance every month, but you need to know 94% doesn't equate over to 94% on our attendance. Any student that's 85 and below, they get 0 points. So if we get, or I'm sorry, 84.99 and below is 0 points. So if you have a student that's always at that 83 level, we're not going to get any APR points for that. So if I have a student that's 85 to 87.5, we're going to get 1/4 of a point. From 87.5 to 89.99, we're going to get 1/2 a point. And from 90 up, we're going to get a whole point for those kiddos. So if you think about, while I've got a bunch of kids, maybe I'm getting 1 point for, how many kids are we not getting any points for? A fraction of a point. And all that's put into an aggregate number for us. And that's how our attendance thing is put together. So we're all in the middle of it. We're working, trying to figure out what our next steps are. But like I said, the teachers are working hard. I think you should be proud of the progress you've made, and we'll just keep going. We'll just keep at it. Anything you all want to add over there? We had a great discussion on Friday, so super excited. Any questions for me? Be proud. Did I lose you, Kelly? Just gotta go slow.
Oh, I'm still here. Just don't drop me.
Okay, I didn't. I got you back. You're safe and sound.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We will, I think, move into a facilities update. I know we have some bleachers we want to talk about.
Yeah, so I attached so one of the things, when we did our music inspection on August the 4th of this year, one of the things they asked, and they will do this every year, they'll ask for the current bleacher and athletic equipment, like in the gyms, they're talking about the ball goals mainly. And then they also look at the football bleachers too. So we got on that. Shannon got on that as soon as we got him here, and they came in, and I supplied the reports to you all. The two biggest things we've got to get fixed are in the high school gym, and both Jason and Steve know about this, are the big goals, the main goals at each end. Those have to have a safety bolt added to them. A bolt, yeah, to anchor them in. I was down in Southwest Missouri here a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to one of the assistant soups down there, and we were talking about music and all the inspections and stuff, and she goes, man, I never thought a gym inspection was as important as it is. And I said, why? And she said, well, when they built an area school built a new elementary, they did not have those anchor bolts, and it fell, and a student died from it. And so we have got to get those fixed. We're on the list. Shannon's calling them every day. When you coming? When you coming? When you coming? So Coach Carter Hall and Coach Culpepper are aware, and we're making provisions for a little bit till we get them here. Hopefully they'll come in this week. That's our goal. The other pieces are just some maintenance pieces like, we need to go through and fix some cabling. We need to fix some brackets, those kinds of things. We haven't had a bleacher inspection for quite a while, so it's kind of like at home. If you kind of don't look at things, sometimes it kind of adds up cost-wise. So for all of the repairs of the elementary and the high school gym, and then going through some of the items in the football bleachers, we're looking at $24,848. Once that gets all fixed, then we'll be back on par, and it'll be just doing the inspections every year, and then little tweaks along the way. So this first bill is going to be a little hefty, but it will be safe, and that's what we need. Our kids and our community to be safe in those gyms.
One of those types of things that I'm not sure if there's any other thing to do other than approve that, right? I mean, you can't, something that's unsafe for people providing them onto our campus to sit. So, seek a motion to approve these.
Motion.
David? Eric? Did you want? You look.
There's several. When we go to replace the elementary seats.
Elementary entry seats, the first 3 rows were. Well, they need to be fixed. There's no question about it. If they're having trouble, you can pull them out.
We had trouble Saturday.
I mean, they're ours. We can fix them.
He's going to replace.
I don't know. I think that's what most of that. 104 new seats. Green seat do it too, but combination of both. They've got, because I know that Bob fixed them 2 years ago, and then there lots of breakage again.
Baseballs. Yeah, there was. Big old holes.
Yeah, it's cut off.
Yeah.
So they're bad again.
So much for those 3
I'd say they
rows.
could do some of that when they get their building done.
Gonna save it.
Itself. There's gonna be room to pitch and hit in there. So that should take care of some of that problem.
Yep, let me show it to you in picture.
Just kind of. I didn't see it, and then when she said $24,000, I was like, what?
Well, it's running, probably next year. Really optimist.
No, I'm talking this spring, they should be able to use it.
Is this something we should worry about, or since we're about to go?
No. I'm just saying, moving forward, hopefully the baseball's gonna have their own building at the park. Practice in a little bit, hitting and pitching, hopefully that takes off the need for using the gym.
Maybe it won't be.
It's the elementary that got us. And if you look at them,
The city's
David made a motion.
doing a lot of it.
Derek did. We do need to
Sorry,
vote,
I
so,
didn't have that in there.
so, all in favor? It is 7-0.
thank you, we'll get her done.
Good. I think that concludes open session, so we'll move into close.
Make a motion, move to executive session following 610.021 with 3, 13, and 19. To include Jason Colton, Sarah Hanson, and Trevor Hall. John Downs.
Yeah, she's in.
Terry Wolf. Well, I didn't know if she would be included.
No, you're good, you're good.
Don't
Put her
give
in there
her
just to make sure she didn't try to run.
I can
No.
So I've got
No, you don't get off that easy.
a motion by Derek, do I have a second by, hi, Amanda? Greg?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Brant?
Yep.
Kelly? I'm a yes,
Yes.
7-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all.